He gasped. The sound was sharp, a crack in the humid fabric of the Lagos night. A man in the small shared compound clutched his chest, eyes wide with primal fear. He had heard the voice at the gate, a thin, reedy whisper curling through the thick air, calling a single name. The voice called for Elara. It had shed its mortal coil, a voice not meant for the living, scraping against the silence with a desperate, chilling insistence. A request from beyond the veil. The man from the gate stumbled backward, his hand pressed firmly against his mouth as if to stifle a cry. He had lived in this compound for 30 years, had seen arguments, celebrations, births, passings, but he had never witnessed such a thing. Such profound, chilling calm from someone who had just heard a spirit's desperate cry for help. The sheer stillness of her denial was more terrifying than any scream. It was an act of defiance against the unwritten laws that bind the community, the living, the dead. In our town, when a cry for help rings out in the night, we rush towards the sound. We do not hesitate. We do not weigh the cost. It is an instinct born of shared vulnerability. We do not turn our backs. But she did. She turned away. Children slept. The faint, sweet smell of fried plantain, old high-life music leaked from a radio repair shop. The name was Elara. It had moved, lingering near the old, abandoned house by the market. I knew I had to go there. A vendor gasped. He dropped a ceramic bowl of ground nuts. It shattered. The market suddenly silent. The vendor's eyes were wide pools of fear. His trembling finger pointed toward a dark, narrow alleyway, a flicker of movement where nothing should be. A cold spot in the warm night air. The ghost had arrived. Vibrant energy turned to hushed, fearful watchfulness. One by one, lamps were extinguished. Stalls were shuttered. A young girl hid behind sacks of rice. Old men folded their chairs. The ghost walked unseen among them. Elara sat on a low wall. She remembered the first time the ghost had come to her. It was a woman, barely a specter, pleading for warmth. She had a child, the specter whispered, a child lost to the fevered rains. Elara had said no. She hoped the refusal would make it vanish. It did not. It only grew stronger. It steals the light. The market keeper felt a cold breath. The ghost's hunger grew. A hymn stopped mid-verse. "It is coming," he whispered. I moved toward the church. The choir boy stumbled backward from the churchyard gate, his hand clutching his throat, as if to ward off an unseen force. He had seen a shape standing by a new, unmarked grave. It was not a person. It had no face, no features. Only a form in shifting, tattered cloth and a steady, unwavering stare. The night was still, yet the cloth around the figure billowed as if caught in a private storm. The boy's fear was a contagion. The sanctity of this place felt violated. The priest stepped out, his hand shaking as he gripped the cross, his Latin mixing with Yoruba pleas for peace. He knew the old ways. He knew this was about a broken promise, a promise that transcends even death. Elara stood just outside the iron gate. She remembered the ghost's name, Funk, the pale, pleading face she had turned away from. The ghost was no longer asking for a favor. It was here to collect. It wanted a price for Elara's silence, wet, bare footprints, leading toward the lagoon. I had to follow. A fisherman shouted and plunged into the dark water, but it was not the slip that had startled him. It was the sound. He swore he heard singing, rising from beneath the lagoon. No one else heard it, but he did. The water itself seemed to be mourning. The lagoon keeps what the city forgets. It is a basin of secrets. Memories settle like silt. Small boats rocked gently, but there was no wind. Fish leaped from the water in panicked arcs, only to fall back, suddenly lifeless. At the water's edge, the ghost of Funka stood, her form clearer now, not in anger, but in profound loss. Elara looked down, Torrential rain, a small, feverish child. Just a dry place until morning. But Elara had refused. "A claim must be made," he muttered. It was hungry. The terrible balance. A life for a life. A rest for a rest. The lapping water transformed into a baby wailing, leading straight to Elara's door. I followed the cry, pulled into the city once more. A child cried out, pointing. The neighbor saw a faint, cold light from Elara's window. It was not warm yellow, but a pale, sterile white. Inside, Elara sat perfectly still, her hands colder than they had ever been. She was not alone in the room. By the window stood the ghost.
It looked at Elara with deep, sorrowful anger. "Help me," it had said. "Give my child and me a place for one night."
When a spirit asks for shelter and does no harm, the price of refusal is steep. The initial cost was so small. She had invited this reckoning. Now the price grows exponentially. The ghost no longer wants a bed for the night. It demands a piece of the life Elara has guarded. It wants to mend its own shattered existence by taking a piece of hers. It wants to balance the scales. The taste of warm bread, her neighbor's hearty laugh, the little green plant reaching for the sun. The knock came from inside her own chest. Something was moving outside her back door. A soft, long breath escaped the lips of the neighbor watching from the stairs. He exhaled with a fear that was old and deep. The entire street held its breath. The night had gone utterly silent. Crickets, gone. Distant radios, gone. The town was waiting. Elara was at the epicenter. Shockwaves of her choice touched everyone, a cold ripple through the community. If Elara never helped, the ghost learns a harsh and final rule. Compassion is a finite resource. It claims its payment not in a single dramatic act, but in pieces. Cold rooms where warmth once lived. Small, unexplainable holes. People's lives lessened. The lamps burn lower each night. Shadows grow deeper. It is not a storm, a slow, creeping frost. Only the small, accumulating losses. A child plays in silence. The priest wakes from a dream of a crying baby. A fisherman's boat drifts empty. I stand at the gate. The lamp flickers and dies. A thin, dry voice calls from the dark. It says a name. The name it calls is my own.